Hey guys, the Explorer 4 here, the Horror Boy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today we're getting to a 1980s classic slasher film, Intruder, which came out in 1989. It's a 6.3 on IMDb and directed by Scott Spiegel. Now, Scott Spiegel, of course, is best friends with Sam Raimi and has been involved with a lot of the projects. I mean, from the very beginning, with Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2. I think he was involved with Spider-Man, and there's a lot of Sam Raimi stuff. He's like a best friend of Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell, and the guys, a lot of the people from that crew he was, best friends with. And you can tell because half this cast is from the Evil Dead movies. Of course, you've got other people in there as well, but a lot of this cast is from the Evil Dead film, which is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. But, like I said, directed by Scott Spiegel, and he hasn't really made too many movies, although the films I have seen of his, I've liked all of his movies. He's made a lot of shorts as far as direction goes, which I've heard of one called Curse of the Werewolf, which I don't know if I heard of that one or if I've heard of another one, but I did hear of a movie called Curse of the Werewolf. But it says here it's just a short, so I don't know, but yeah, so he made that. But his first movie that he actually made, I believe, was this movie, Intruder. And then after this, he would go on to make From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money, which is easily one of the most underrated horror film sequels I've ever seen. And there's many reasons for that. But what I feel like one of the strongest things in that movie is the direction by Scott Spiegel. And why I love his style so much is because it's very similar to Sam Raimi's style in the fact that you have a lot of interesting techniques on the camera. And it's like he's not ripping off Sam Raimi at all, because Sam Raimi invents his own camera shots and angles and different camera techniques, and also does Scott Spiegel. And a lot of his stuff is POV shots, and it's in this movie. It's From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money. He also did a Hostel Part 3, which I will admit, I don't hate it like everybody else does. A lot of people hate that movie. It's not great. It's not perfect. It's an okay kind of movie. I can't really say it's great. I can't even really say it's a good movie. But I thought for what it was decent. It was taking the Hostel formula, making it more of a simple idea. You have the Las Vegas setting. You had the casino setting, which I liked. You had some pretty cool looking effects. Some stupid ideas for the movie, like, some stupid ideas with the death scene and stuff like that. Like with CGI cockroach and stuff like that. But I thought Hostel Part 3 was decent. Although if you watch that movie, there's not a whole lot of the POV stuff. I mean, like, the one thing I can remember from that movie that was the POV stuff was the cockroaches going down the girl's mouth. That was like the only POV shot I remember seeing in that movie. But he made that. He's currently making a movie called Spring Break 83, which is in production. Actually, it's completed. Here on IMDb it says it's completed. He also made a movie called My Name is Modesty, which I haven't seen that one. But Intruder is a film that I've heard about from many people in the horror community, and it's been a film that for years I have always wanted to check out. And I gotta say, man, this is easily one of the goriest and bloodiest slasher films out there. It's easily one of the best slasher films out there as well. I think it's tremendously underrated. The fact that you really don't hear a lot of people talk about this movie a lot is really a shame, and it deserves more credit. It deserves more notice. This movie does a lot of cool stuff that, especially for like 1989, was very like, as far as slasher films go, as far as the gore goes, I mean, you got a lot of just insane death scenes in this movie, and it really surprised me. This is the uncut version. And by the way, before we even get into the review, I want to say this. I'll be using this as the thumbnail of the video because every other poster spoils the ending to this movie. And this review will spoil the ending of this movie. And Yeah, there. If you look up this movie, and it almost got spoiled for me because I looked up the poster and I shared it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. And somebody was like, that spoils the movie. And I was like, oh shit. So I, took it down. I didn't take it down. I just, didn't look at it. I made sure I didn't click on it and look at it very closely. Because when you look at the poster really fast, you just see a shadowy figure with like a decapitated head or something like that beside him. But if you look at it real closely, you can tell who the killer is. And luckily, I didn't like look at it. I just kind of glanced at it and said, "That's a cool poster." Kind of put it on this horror thing. People are like, "That spoils the movie. Have you seen it yet?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." Oh shit! So luckily I kind of saved that, and the twist ended up being still there. But be very careful looking at posters of this movie, looking the movie up, because a lot of the posters spoil this movie. This is probably the safest poster that you can find of this movie, and this review will contain spoilers to who the killer is. So, just a little heads up about that. But this movie's plot is very basic, but I really love it. It's about the supermarket that is, has the night crew in there, and it's the night shift, and people kind of doing their jobs. You have the butchers, the people who stock the shelves, the cashiers, the managers, supervisors. Everybody kind of is doing their jobs, and you have, I believe it's Elizabeth Cox, who ends up being the lead of this movie. Her boyfriend ends up getting out of prison and comes to the supermarket. He's a very shadowy, very suspicious type character. And when he shows up, he gets thrown out of the supermarket for kind of causing a scene. He's really mean to the lead. And they kind of throw him out of there. And after that, you hear that the supermarket is closing. This is the final couple of days or whatever. It's going to close soon. And for everybody kind of get ready for that. And after that all happens, you have people getting killed off one by one. And some pretty brutal, gory death scenes. And they're trying to you try to figure out who the killer is. And spoiler alert, you find out that Dani Hicks from Evil Dead 2 is the killer, and he's the manager of this supermarket, and he doesn't like the guy who is his boss, and his boss is just not really caring about it, whereas his character has been at that place forever, and when he finds out that they're going to close it down, he kind of just snaps and loses his mind and starts killing people. And you have some brutal death scenes. I mean, you have a death scene where his boss gets like a spike in the eye. I guess it's the little thing that you put papers on and stuff like that, but he gets it right in the eye, and it's a brutal scene. And he's not even dead yet. You see him walking around later on in the movie. This is a very brutal looking scene. You have Ted Raimi in this movie, who, I'll talk about the cast in a little bit, but Ted Raimi, he gets a knife to the back of the head, really great shot. You have Sam Raimi, who right here gets a meat hook right in here, and it comes out up here, and he's just hanging on this meat hook. Beautiful effect. The effect looked wonderful. And speaking of beautiful effects, you have two crazy ass death scenes. Where you have one more where it's pretty much this guy gets like stabbed, and the knife goes through him and through some beer, and the beer like sprays everywhere. Such a great looking shot. It's filmed very well. Looks cool. And he kind of just hangs. He's kind of just stuck there. Kind of reminded me of Halloween, where the guy gets stuck on the wall. But this guy gets kind of stuck on these beer cans. That was a cool little shot. But you have these insane death scenes where you see this it's kind of like this, I don't know what it was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was this machine that kind of closes down on things. I don't remember if it was like an elevator type thing or if it was a compressor. I don't know what it was, but it was this giant machine, and the killer puts this guy's head in there, and the machine comes down, and you just see it crush the guy's skull, and his brain's exposed, blood squirting. Dude, the effect looked wonderful. And it was such a brutal... That was like one of the oh shit death scenes. I was like, holy shit, that is crazy. And then another guy gets his face just saw. They use this saw they used to cut the meat with. He just saws the guy's head, boom, all the way down, all the way. Doesn't cut away, no fast cutting, no editing, just straight cuts through his entire head. And just crazy. I was like, oh my God. And the third act is the lead chick finding out that Dani Hicks is the killer. And Dani Hicks does a great job in this movie as the killer. You really buy it. He plays a crazy guy very well. And he's a great actor. Big fan of him in Evil Dead 2. Big fan of him in this movie. You could tell he got into the character. There's scenes where he's hopping on the cashier's desk. He's hopping from one desk to the other. He's chasing her. He's setting these, little traps where, the body of Sam Raimi comes flying down on a meat hook. And it kind of jump scares the lead character. Or, he locked down the entire supermarket. You could tell he really got into this character. It was definitely a very good lead villain that Dani Hicks played. And the mystery was very engaging because luckily I didn't look at the wrong posters enough to where I was like, oh, that's the killer. No, I was just like, I didn't see that. So luckily it didn't get spoiled for me. So the mystery aspect is still there when I watched it. And the end of the movie, you have Bruce Campbell show up as a cop, which is funny because they put Bruce Campbell up like he's a star of the movie. It's like you don't see Bruce Campbell to the last 5, maybe 3 minutes of the movie. And it's because Dani Hicks, you think he's dead because you think the two leads kill him, but he ends up still being alive, and our two leads are kind of taken away by the police, and they're going to get blamed for the murders. I'm guessing they want to make sequels to this, but it didn't happen, which is a shame because could you imagine, Dani Hicks going after them maybe they get taken to jail and he goes after them in the jail and they're getting, you have a body count in the jail, or maybe they get blamed and they get told they're crazy. You could have him in the mental asylum chasing them down and stuff like that. There's so much you could do with a sequel to that. It's so much you can do there. But yeah, you have a good mystery to it if it doesn't get spoiled for you. You have some great death scenes. You have a cool sounding score. It's pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's a really strong thing in the movie because the music is kind of barely there. But you do have a lot of slow tunes and low sounding instruments and very moody, melodic sounding score. I don't know why I keep doing this, like I'm forming the music with my hands, but it's just kind of what you it's this really wavy, synthy, low-tone kind of score. It ain't great, but it's definitely there, and I could say it's decent for what it is. The cast in this movie is wonderful. You have a great cast. You have Elizabeth Cox in this movie, who's been in plenty of films. Dani Hicks, David Burns, Renee Estevez from Sleepaway Camp 2, Sam Raimi. You have also Ted Raimi, Tom Lester, Alvy Moore. You have a great cast. And you also have, like I said, makeup effects by KMB, which is awesome because the effects look amazing. I love the idea of taking place at a supermarket because it's so, we all either went to a supermarket or some people have worked at supermarkets. So it's a very relatable location. It's like the camp location or the Halloween locations. We all have lived in houses or, kind of close to houses or trailer. We lived in all kinds of houses and homes and stuff. So you can relate to that. You can relate to the babysitting aspect. You can relate to the boogeyman aspect and the urban legend aspect. And the camp, as far as, Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, The Burning goes, all those camp slasher films go, you can relate to that because we've all been to camp. We've been to a campground. You can relate to that. Here, we've all been to a supermarket or a store. Some people have even worked at stores and worked at supermarkets. So you can relate to that. And they also film it, I think that's what I mean is that Scott Spiegel as the director I'm a big fan of because the way he films The night sequences with the mist and fog has a great look to it, a good tone, some wonderful lighting choices in there. It's filmed just brilliantly, looks great. A lot of the inside interior shots I really love, the freezers, the shelves. You have a POV of the inside of a shelf, which is pretty cool. Speaking of POV shots, a lot of that in this movie. There's a telephone POV. You see a knife POV. A cool shot where the Ted Raimi is taking a knife and chopping something, and as he goes up, you see a knife stay there as his knife goes down. So you realize, oh, that's the killer. He gets a knife to the back of the head. Great looking shot. You have a scene where it's a cool looking shot where a guy gets pulled through the shelf of like the canned foods and stuff. Look cool. Very, very cool looking. So the film visually, I thought, looked amazing. A lot of the scenes look dark and grim, are filmed very well. Also, a good aspect of this movie is the characters. They're not... And what I love about this movie is that they don't make these characters typical. They're not typical. They're not those teens who are always worried about getting high and getting laid and drinking beer. I mean, you had that a little bit in the movie, like them flirting or maybe a guy drinking some beer. But you don't have them being like the lead chicks being all horrible and, OMG, they're not like annoying characters. They're all relatable. They're all realistic. They're very well done characters. Our lead chicks, both of them are well done. The other people in the movie, I thought were very grounded and felt very realistic. They weren't over the top. They weren't bad actors. They weren't doing a horrible job. Everybody did a great job in this movie. Everybody in the cast did a great job. As far as directing goes, that was done very well. As far as lighting goes and makeup effects goes, I think I said, no, I didn't say that. The writing I thought was pretty decent for a slasher film, making it interesting and unique. And I just love a lot of things in this movie. It's definitely one of my favorite slasher films out there. That I'm just surprised. I'm surprised at a few things. I'm surprised that this movie came out in 1989 and is this gory, because 89 was a horrible year for slasher films. Because Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 got cut down. Halloween 5, even though it had some effects in there, it wasn't really the goriest Halloween movie. You had Friday the 13th Part 9, or not Part 9, you had Part 8 and then Part 7, which was 88. Those both were kind of trimmed down by the MPAA. You had Sleepaway Camp 3, which got trimmed down. And 1990, you had Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 get trimmed down. So, late 80s, early 90s, if you were a slasher film, it's a bad time to be a slasher film, because most of the time, films would get trimmed down. But somehow, and I don't know if it's just because I've seen the uncut version, maybe the R-rated version is much more trimmed down, but it just surprised me of how gory this movie is and how well done the effects. I mean, it's just wonderful effects. Very, very fun watch. That's another thing, too. It's not boring. It's not slow. It's very fun. The characters are very well done. They're likable. I thought Dani Hicks played a great lead bad guy, lead serial killer slasher. The supermarket aspect that was really well done. The whole store aspect that was really well done. The characters, you buy them that they're all friends. You buy that they're all employees and they work for this company. Or not company, but they work just for the supermarket. You buy it. You get into it. So, overall, I give Intruder like a 9 out of 10. It's really, really solid. It's got great kills and a great mood and setting and atmosphere. It's filmed very well. A lot of cool looking camera angles and techniques used. Scott Spiegel does a great job directing this movie. You have an awesome cast. I mean, you got Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi, Renee Estevez, Dani Hicks, Elizabeth Cox. You also have Bruce Campbell in there. You also have David Brin. You have a great cast here. Wonderful cast. And, yeah, Intruder is easily one of the most underrated slasher films out there. So I highly recommend this movie. 9 out of 10 for me. It's a great film, great watch, and I thoroughly love Intruder. But, yeah, That's my little review on Intruder. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I gave 9 out of 10. What would you rate it if you've seen it? If you haven't seen it, will you see it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. The Explorer 4 is out. I'll be seeing you guys later. Have a good night.